Hi, my name is Sean. I'd like to thank you for joining us today for this webinar on the good, the bad, and the ugly of Oracle third-party support. Lines will be muted during the webcast, and questions will be answered at the conclusion of the presentation. If you have any questions, please submit them via the chat console, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and available for encore viewing at SLC.US.com. An email with links to the recording, slides, and any special offers in the next few days. Our speaker today is Ed Ramirez. Ed is the foremost Oracle licensing expert with extensive experience in managing and strategizing on large-scale Oracle negotiations with an emphasis on cost reductions. Prior to becoming the Chief Strategy Officer at SLC, Mr. Ramirez worked for Oracle Corporation as a VP of Sales Mid-America and Canada. I'm going to turn things over to Ed to get the presentation started.
Thank you very much, Sean, and welcome everybody to this webinar that we put together. The reason for this webinar and the reason why this came about is we do not sell any Oracle third-party support, but a lot of our clients are inquiring about it, and it's a what we call very hot topic in which customers are really interested in finding out more information about it because it is a viable option for business today. So let's begin on this and give you a little bit of our history and why we're involved in this. So we were founded approximately 14 years ago. And we were all Oracle executives at the time. We are not an Oracle reseller. We do not sell any Oracle products, and we have no ties to Oracle whatsoever. We are also not a third-party support company. We don't sell the product, we don't support it, we don't endorse it, or we don't go against it. It's just a very neutral way to look at this. And so it's a 100% unbiased approach. The information that you're going to hear today is 100% coming from a neutral place. We specialize in reducing Oracle costs. That is what our company is built on, and this does tie into cost reduction. So we figure we cover it today. As I mentioned before, we are a neutral observer. We have over 100 customers using third-party support since the beginning of this concept. We have seen it all from our side. We have seen some of the mistakes that are made, and we have seen the successes, kind of from the sidelines, because again, our customers are involved in this. Is it a great move or is it a train wreck? And we're going to discuss that in a couple of the slides coming up. But it tends to be a great move, and it also can be a train wreck if it's not done properly. This webinar is only educational. Again, we're not here to promote the use or to go against the use. There are too many articles in the media that I've been reading lately, and they turn out to be very, very positive, and they really lack a lot of the substance. So a lot of these writers that are putting these articles out are literally putting out information that is misleading to customers because they really don't have the visibility that we have into what is going on after you sign a deal with a third-party support provider. Who are the players? So we've got Rimini Street, which is the well-known player right now, and now we have Spinnaker Support. Both companies do a very good job at this is a third-party support. A couple of differences within these companies. Obviously, Rimini Street has been doing this a lot longer. Spinnaker Support began their practice doing JDE support, third-party support, and they've been doing it for years. They've expanded their portfolio to include Oracle now, or all the Oracle products, and they're doing a really good job of it. So Rimini Street, a couple of things to notice. When you go to Rimini Street, they do not allow you to reduce your Oracle estate. That means that if you're paying Oracle $1 million for, let's call it, 100,000 licenses, that's what it is. And they'll give you 50%, and then you go with them. At Spinnaker Support, they'll allow you to optimize your environment, which is, in my opinion, I think that's a big plus because optimizing your environment before you move to third party, I think is one of the strongest things you can do. So let's get right into this. So the good, obviously it's a 50+ support reduction. I mean, that's huge. And any company is not going to be able to look at that and say that is not interesting and appealing. When you can reduce your support after all these years of Oracle telling you you can't reduce it by 1%, you can reduce it by 50%. That is very, very good. There's a competitive landscape. Again, in the beginning, it was only Rimini Street. So you can only get, let's say, 50% discount unless you were a very big client that are trying to lure you in. In this day, you can now compete both vendors. So now you've got Rimini and you also have Spinnaker. That creates a competitive landscape. So the discounts will go past the 50%, almost guaranteed if you bring both vendors in to discuss. It is OEM support levels. And again, what we see with our clients is there is no decline in support level. Your support continues to be top notch. In some cases, even better than what Oracle's providing. So it's not like, oh, well, we're with Oracle and we're going to go to this other company and the support is just going to go, down below levels that we're used to as far as performance. So it is very good support that these companies are providing. From what we've heard from our clients, they're very happy once we're there. Senior executives love the cost reductions. So if you're in the sourcing group or the buying departments, it is going to be very important because the senior executives, they're going to be all over this, and it does look very good for the company to get these kind of run rate reductions. This is one of the few programs where you do get immediate cost reductions. We're in the cost reduction business for Oracle customers, and we can't guarantee that we're going to reduce their immediate support, let's call it the May support bill, when we're 3 months into it. However, this program does allow for the immediate cost reductions. And it's one of the few that you can leverage. So example, if your support bill is going to be due in June or July and you want to impact it, this is one way to get it done. So it does help very much. Almost a no-brainer decision. So again, with a 50% reduction, executive buy-in, and a competitive landscape where you can really negotiate some great discounts, it is on the surface a no-brainer decision. And finally, able to tell Oracle to pound salt. I have so many interactions with our clients, and that is one of the things that just drives them crazy, that for years and years and years, they have been told, nope, you can't do that. We're not going to allow that. Our policies won't allow you, and zero flexibility. So this is the one time that you're able to let your support lapse and not pay the money and go to the third-party support. So the bad. Here's a little bit of the bad. And again, I don't want to call this really bad because it isn't that bad. Customers wait until Oracle support and don't provide any runway. So the Oracle support is due and they don't provide the runway. So what happens is they get excited about the fact that they're going to reduce their support by 50%. And not only that, but most customers are trained to begin looking at their Oracle support probably 4 to 3 months before the support is due. They're busy doing other things, so they don't give themselves enough runway. So then customers tend to rush in. And so then support is due next month, and I've got to make this big decision. 50% discount, so I go ahead and do it. I don't do the right planning. There's a poor job of negotiating. And the negotiation part is what has opened up the doors now. A lot of customers have heard and they've been trained that it's a 50% reduction, and that's what you do. The fact is, both of these companies will negotiate, and it is a negotiation. As much as they want to say, nope, what we do is 50%, you bring us your support, and we support it for 3 years for 50%, that is not true. And the second part to this is optimizing the estate. I mentioned that earlier, and this is a big one. Right now, you have a pool of licenses, and most customers have products that they don't use, products that they've been trying to shed for years. Oracle's been telling you no. We're not going to reduce that, and if we reduce that, we're going to increase your remaining support. This is a perfect time and opportunity to optimize your estate. And I'll tell you honestly, I've seen very few customers completely optimizing their estate before they move to third-party support. So if you do that, what happens is you continue to go on with that big product set that you were using, let's call it 90%, or in some cases 80%, and you're just paying a lower cost support on it. This is an obvious one, and everybody knows this. There are no version upgrades, so you will be stuck on whatever version you leave. So it is recommended that you upgrade to the latest and greatest version before you move on to third-party support. Again, customers go from one bad contract to another, And what I mean by that, if they didn't optimize their environment, again, they took that over-licensed pool and now they're paying a reduced amount on an over-licensed pool. So that tends to be, yes, you did get the 50% reduction, but that doesn't tend to be optimized. And this could impact since this is a risky maneuver, you can impact your costs even further by optimizing the environment. Difficult to forecast business for 3 years. And again, this is a big one. When you're taking on this third-party support, you've got to do it with a forecast of 3 years minimum. And what that means is that you are not going to have any incremental Oracle needs that are going to force you to take on support, that you don't have any projects in the horizon that are going to force you to take support. Because once you take support for one technology piece that shares the same source code with another technology piece, then you are in breach of Oracle contract and you need to buy the support. So it's very difficult to forecast business for 3 years. And so that's a very big point. No proper ROI performed. What I mean by that is, of course, most companies will do a basic ROI, which is we're going to save X amount over 3 years. This is our return. Fantastic. One of the elements that has to be put into this is what is going to be the cost of rebuying those licenses at 3 years, after 3 years, because you might have to go back to Oracle for support. And the best option to go back to Oracle is not to reinstate the support, because then they'll charge you all the reinstatement fees. Your option is going to be to rebuy all of the licenses that you had before. So in essence, that has to go into the ROI calculations. If that part is missed, then the ROI is completely upside down. And yes, it looks good on paper. You're going to save all these millions for the next 3 years, but it's a very inaccurate ROI. And so now the ugly. And this is a very powerful slide because there's a very, what I call, risky side to this business and as customers. Once again, yes, the discounts and the savings are very, very attractive. And in some cases, they work very well. But here's some of the things that have gone wrong. Jobs have been lost over this decision. And people have lost their jobs because they went the third-party route. They didn't do the proper ROI. They didn't do the proper forecast. And the companies ended up paying basically twice as much as if they just continued on Oracle support. So this is very sensitive. Here's another one. Oracle will audit your business in retaliation. And so once you go off of Oracle support, a couple of things will happen. If you do want to go buy incremental licenses, you can buy those without support. And Oracle will sell them to you without support. But they will play the negotiation game and say, you know what? You don't have support, so we can't discount it as much as we used to. It's an unsupported client. And the second part is they will audit the use of the licenses. And they will come very aggressively and look everywhere to find a reason to, again, sell you more licenses, and because you are out of support. So that happens to a lot of the clients that go into this, should go into it knowing that there's a possible audit in the horizon. And anybody who's been through an Oracle audit knows that these audits are not nice at all. The wrong forecast. What we talked about was when a customer does not forecast this properly. And again, what does this do? When you say, well, we're pretty stable, we're at a stable version of Oracle, we don't need to upgrade. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is somebody within the company has a mission-critical Oracle deal that needs to happen, a new application that is coming in, something that requires Oracle support. That will throw the whole thing into chaos because all of a sudden, once again, you've got products sharing the same code, and so therefore you need to make sure that your forecast is accurate. The wrong forecast will turn this entire thing upside down. Rogue business units affect this forecast. So you may have done a very good job forecasting, dealing with your IT executives and your folks and figuring out that, you know, there really isn't any crucial projects within the next 3 years. But there's always those rogue, and some companies have them more than others. There's always those rogue business units that deploy software without really consulting sourcing. They do kind of what they need to do to get the business more optimized. And they're kind of out there doing their own thing. They love to negotiate with Oracle directly and try to bypass everybody. Those groups can, again, put you in breach of contract with Oracle if they go out and buy any sort of Oracle software that has support attached to it. Again, Oracle software can be purchased without support. That is not a problem. The companies that move to third-party support understand that it is a temporary fix. Very, very, very rarely does it become something that the company knows they can go on for as long as they want. And the temporary fix is, again, 3 to 4 years. A lot of things happen in the industry. A lot of technology changes. So if your company is willing to do a temporary fix to get the cost reductions, because in 3 to 4 years, things are going to be different and it doesn't matter that you have to go rebuy your entire estate, then it's okay. If not, it is a temporary fix and it's not permanent. New Oracle requirements lure their ugly head, and so we see this a lot. You did the proper forecast, there are no rogue business units, but the company does have some new Oracle requirements. And based on these Oracle requirements, you have to get Oracle support. And there's no two things about it. We've been engaged in this situation many times where we tell the customer, just go without support. They're like, we can't. It's just not something that can happen. And so that happens very, very often. And what I mean by why this is in the ugly category is it's almost impossible to see these. These are not something that you can see in your horizon. These are things that are just going to happen. And there's nothing you can do. IT is not aligned with procurement. And so there are different strategies. Procurement, sourcing, want to manage costs, bring down the cost of the operation. IT wants to have the latest and greatest. And one of the biggest problems we see out there as well is misalignment between the IT department, the groups, and the sourcing department that is going to go and put the company on third-party support. And so that misalignment is going to deal to a disaster. It's going to basically lead to a disaster. And what happens is the IT department is going to battle this situation, this decision that the company took all the way through, making it absolutely miserable for everybody. So the IT department has to be completely in line with procurement. And lastly, there are lawsuits pending. And not that your company is going to get sued at all, but the companies are going to get sued. And Rimini Street just went past their first lawsuit in which they were found guilty. And they did have to pay, and they will pay. I don't know if it's been paid. Here's the bad thing. Oracle's going for round 2, and round 2 is going to be pretty big and pretty strong. So it's not over. Even though they might be claiming that, oh yeah, the lawsuit is over, we're good, and you know, Oracle and us shook hands. From what we understand, that is not true. At this point, there are no legal actions filed against Spinnaker Support. From what they claim and from all the research that we have done, they are doing things differently in a way that doesn't violate Oracle's IP, and Oracle feels pretty comfortable with them so far. I don't know how long that will last. And again, this is just purely informational, just providing information that, again, most people that write articles in magazines don't provide. And so these lawsuits are a big concern. Will they materialize and be impacting your business within the 3 to 4 years? Probably not, because they take a long time, but they're out there. And so you just need to be aware of them. Case study, and this is something that actually happened to one of our clients we wanted to talk about. Large US-based manufacturing company. 50% support reductions. They saved $3.5 million year over year, which is a big savings. The CIO, everybody was very, very happy about this decision. Into their second year, disaster strikes. One of the disasters was credit card system no longer compatible with version of Oracle. No patches needed, nothing like that. It's just not compatible with the version of Oracle. That's a big problem for a company of this size. An Australian division for this company, we talked about the rogue business units, went out and did an Oracle purchase and purchased a significant amount of Oracle database. And so that put this customer in breach right away because they made a significant purchase out of Australia. And again, this company did not have very tight controls as to what happens outside of the United States. And so this put a really bad situation on them. And to just put the nail on the coffin, the company was acquired during this process by a larger company. And so now here comes a company who's acquiring a non-supported company. That's a big problem because now once the merger becomes official, one company's out of support and the other company has support. So they're in breach. So they have to go get support, or the acquiring company has to drop all of their support. So this is an example of what happens. Obviously, they had all three things go wrong with this, and they basically have to reinstate their support or go rebuy all of the licenses once the acquisition is final and everything is set. Okay, so it's a very serious problem. They're facing 150% support reinstatement penalty plus back due support. And so again, when I mentioned the options are you either reinstate your support or you go buy new licenses, because what happens is you didn't optimize your environment to begin with. This gives you a second chance to re-optimize your environment, buy exactly what you need versus what you owned, and that will soften the blow of buying everything back. But this should have been calculated into the ROI, the possibility that you might have to rebuy all of the licenses. So this particular situation is going to cost the customer over $6 million to fix. And what that means is that their entire ROI, the reason why they did this, and all the savings are completely gone. So they can't basically say, we saved a bunch of money. They didn't. They're actually going to be underwater a little bit because they're going to have to rebuy a lot of these licenses. And so this is part of why we call this ugly. It can be ugly, and you have to be aware. Most of the magazine articles never touch on anything like this. And this is what we see. Okay? Are there successes? And when is it right? Absolutely. Very stable system. We have customers that are running very old systems, legacy systems. They're stable. They never really call Oracle for support. That's a very viable option. No global Oracle usage. And what happens is a US-based company, they really don't have a lot of Asia deployments or Europe deployments. It's a very centralized deployment. It can be very large, but centralized. That also is a very positive thing. Very tight licensing controls. We have companies that have very loose licensing controls. We have companies that have extremely tight licensing controls. That means that nobody within the company can deploy any sort of software, no matter what brand, without properly documenting and getting the approvals for it through the company controls. That makes it easy to manage. You're not going to have a rogue deployment. A strong ROI. Now, when you submit this ROI, you perform this ROI, and you've included all the factors that we talked about, and it becomes a positive ROI, then absolutely. Because even if you have to go buy the new licenses at some point, you're still going to be $3 to $4 to $5 million ahead of the game. And so the ROI makes sense. And if it's a strong ROI, absolutely this works. Rock solid technology forecast. Again, that you're not going to be going off of these super stable systems. You're not going to be going back to Oracle. You're going to, let's say you have the initiative is to go with Microsoft SQL Server or DB2, and Oracle really is going to be downsizing. Absolutely go with this model. And IT must be okay with not having the latest and greatest versions of Oracle and the latest and greatest products that they release. Oracle does a great job of making IT people feel the need and the desire to have these great tools. And they are great tools. They make business run better and very stable, and it's best of breed. So these IT people want to have what is the best. If they're okay with having the outdated systems, again, fantastic. This is something that you can move on and take advantage of. 100% buy-in from IT. If IT is on board, that's half the battle, because again, you do not want IT as an adversary after the decision has been made. So as a united team, this has to be made a decision. And once you have their buy-in, then absolutely it's the right decision. So as we close here, it is a joint decision between the two organizations, the sourcing group and the IT people. They have to be joint. Important things to keep in mind. This can be a very good move, but it must be planned out with professionals. You know, we state over and over that number one, you need runway, you need professionals, you need people that will help you make this decision. It's not as easy as what we see all the time. I'm getting 50% discount. Where do I sign? There's a lot more, and I hope I transmitted that to everybody today. There's a very high level of risk, no matter how you do it. I mean, this is a risky move, and customers have to go into this understanding that it is a risky move. As we mentioned with our case study, a lot of things can go wrong. Give yourself runway. Runway is the most important thing when it comes to these decisions. Give yourself at least 8 months to work through the ROI process, the optimization exercise, the forecasting exercise, and make sure that you give yourself enough runway. Lack of runway is the number one thing that makes all of those other items that we talked about today come into play and create what we call a very ugly situation when it comes to third-party support. And don't do it alone because you want to be the hero. I've seen it over and over where certain groups, and I'll say the department, the sourcing department, wants to come in with these huge savings. The company has a huge savings initiative, and they're the ones that are going to rein in, $3 to $4 million reductions, in some cases even higher, and therefore they want the full credit and run with it by themselves. Once again, the IT department doesn't take lightly to that, and they will battle that and make it a problem all the way through. Don't be just sucked in because of the high discount reduction. It's very luring, and you say to yourself, why does he keep saying this over and over? It's very basic. We've seen it a lot. We see customers that we were like, okay, did you do this yet? Did you do that yet? No, we signed 2 weeks ago. What do you mean you signed the deal already? Really? I mean, they really did none of these things that we talked about. They just signed the deal, 50% across the board. Excellent move in their minds. But again, they got sucked in with the high cost reduction. And speak with an Oracle expert, and at SLC is one of the companies that can help you to understand your options. How can SLC help? Number one, what stage are you in? Are you evaluating, or are you really close to signing this deal? We can help you, and here's what we're offering. For attending this webinar, I'm willing to provide a 30-minute private consultation on third-party support at no cost. So that's the value that we want to bring to you guys, to show you that, we can help you. This is not something we do for a living. This is not something that is our business is run on this. This is something that we're doing to help our clients and provide as much information as we can to our clients so that they can make the best decisions possible. So in exchange, we are willing to provide these 30-minute sessions to talk about in more detail the good, the bad, and the ugly of the support world that, again, in the press, it's getting nothing but praises. Oh, it's wonderful. If I was to read those magazine articles, I would sign up. I would make it happen. But the reality is there's some ugliness to it behind the scenes that you need to be aware of. So again, we're willing to do this third-party support 30-minute session. Thank you, and now we move into questions.
Hey, Ed, this is Sean. Thank you very much. That was great. So we've got a few questions already in the queue, and I think I'll just give folks a couple moments. If you do have any questions, please submit them via the chat console. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that this webinar is being recorded, and we're going to send everybody the links to it so that they can watch this later if they missed any key points. And obviously, if you have any further questions, by all means, reach out directly to Ed. His contact information is on the screen there. So Ed, I've got a few questions. We'll start off with this one is, can I do a hybrid model where certain applications are on third-party support but others are on Oracle support?
The answer is yes, because the key to this is that they don't share the same source code. So if you want to take your applications to Oracle third-party support, you can do that and leave your database where it is with Oracle. They do not share the same source code. What Oracle will not allow you to do is take, let's say, half of your database and put it in third-party support and keep the other half, or a division in Europe, or anything, because they share the same source code. And because they share the same source code, therefore, it must be supported.
Okay, great. So another question: what happens if I just drop support? Can I just add third-party support at any time in the future if I'm running without support?
That's a great question, and the answer is yes, you can. You can always approach either one of these vendors and say, you know, I would like to purchase support from you. These are the licenses that we own. They're currently unsupported, and this is what we need. Keep in mind that when you do that, you will not have the opportunity that most customers take to update everything before they go to third-party support. So whatever version you're on when that happens, then at that point, you're going to move over to third-party support, take on their services, but you will be on an older platform. You didn't have that opportunity to upgrade and get the latest and greatest patches downloaded.
Okay, I've got a question. This one's a little bit more technical, which is, if an Oracle application is accepting credit cards, do I need to purchase the PCI compliance part, even though the credit card is encrypted on the screen? Because apparently that's an expensive component.
Now, here, can you repeat that question? Actually, that's a very tough question, but go ahead.
Absolutely. And if an Oracle application is accepting credit cards, do I need to purchase the PCI compliance part? And this person's saying it's about $8,000 a month, even though the credit card is encrypted on the screen.
To be quite honest, I don't understand that question that well, because it sounds to me like this has a bolt-on component to the application that they're trying to purchase.
Okay. What I would like to propose, Ed, if this is good, we've got the name of the person who asked that question. I will provide that to you, and maybe if you want to speak to some of your experts and reach out, they'll be able to get that answer for you. Does that make sense for everyone?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'm just going to move on to the next one. So if I go to third-party support and I need to negotiate new licenses, so add some additional ones in, how will my discount compare to what I've seen in the past from Oracle?
As I mentioned earlier, the discount will be impacted somewhat. I'm not going to say it's going to be impacted every time, but it depends on how Oracle wants to play hardball. So if the salespeople want to take it and say, you know, we don't want to give you this much discount because you're not an Oracle supported customer, the approvers are pushing back, that tends to be the case. It's at the rep level. So once again, bring in competition. And when that happens, begin to also talk with some Oracle resellers and express that you want to buy some Oracle licenses without support, and you still want to get the historical discounts that you received in the past. It's doable, and it can be done. It's just to expect a little bit more of a fight than you used to get in the past.
Okay. So the customer's asking, they're using using a third-party maintenance provider dependent on having a perpetual license. What happens if it's right to use?
No, the perpetual license and all that does not matter. So you can go ahead and move to the third-party provider in that situation.
Okay, great. Another one. If I'm audited and I use third-party support, can Oracle force me to buy their support as part of the settlement?
No, that cannot be part of a settlement to buy Oracle support. It has to tie into you are using Oracle support somewhere else within the organization. That's the only way they can tie it back to the results of the findings of the audit are that you need to buy Oracle support. that will not hold any water. So that would not be a concern at all.
Okay, great. We have one more question, unless anyone submits one right now, which is, how does the quality of support differ between Oracle and third parties?
The support, the quality is very similar, and we actually covered that earlier as well. The customers' feedback that we get from all of the customers that are on third-party support is that the support is as good, and if not, in some situations, better than what Oracle provides. The response time is good, and the ability to fix the issues is very, very good. So it is as close as you can get to direct Oracle support. And again, this is based on what the customers are telling us. This is not us going and trying it ourselves. This is what we hear from our customers, that their support, they feel, didn't decline at all, and it's top-notch from both companies. We strongly recommend either one in that scenario, because I couldn't tell you one is worse than the other. They're very, very strong, both of them.
Okay, excellent. Well, that appears to be all we have for questions today. So I think with that, I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time away from your busy day to join us today, and let you know you can expect to see an email from us in the next couple of days with links to some of the information that was provided in this webinar, including a link to the rebroadcast, so you can watch this at a later date. But thank you very much. And Ed, did you have anything you wanted to say to close?
That's it. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share this information, and have a great day.
Great. Thanks, everybody.